In the year 2841, deep within the Andromeda arm of the Milky Way, the Galactic Assembly received a silent alert. An unknown species had activated faster-than-light technology in the Sol system. The High Council, made up of the oldest and most powerful empires in the galaxy, gathered in their floating city above the gas giant Zorvac. Their initial reaction was laughter. Earth, a tiny blue planet orbiting an average star, was supposed to be a late bloomer, a species too young to be taken seriously. They called humans fire children, a name reserved for species still playing with primitive weapons. Still, protocol demanded action. A Dominion scout fleet, led by the proud and arrogant Varnix Empire, was dispatched to Earth under the belief that a show of force would remind the newcomers of their place. The fleet, consisting of 10 advanced warships, arrived in Earth's orbit expecting submission and fear. Instead, they found silence. Earth did not respond to their hails. No ships launched, no messages were sent. The alien commanders laughed, assuming Earth lacked the ability to reply. But as they moved into low orbit, something unexpected happened. Their systems flickered, then shut down. Artificial gravity reversed. Engines failed. Alarms screamed in a language no one understood. One by one, the mighty warships went dark. Then, without warning, each ship was surrounded by small, fast-moving objects, barely detectable, like shadows in space. They didn't fire weapons. They simply latched on, and a few minutes later, the alien fleets were completely disabled, floating like ghosts above Earth. Then, only one ship regained power. The flagship, Zarakul, found itself gently pushed away from the planet's gravity and slingshotted toward deep space. Inside its core systems, a message had been implanted. Simple. Direct. It read, "Do not return uninvited." Back in the assembly's chambers, the room fell into silence as the message was played aloud. For the first time in centuries, fear touched the voices of the empires. Who were these humans who could bring down a Dominion fleet without a single shot? How had they developed stealth drones that moved like shadows and struck without leaving a trace? And more importantly, how long had they been hiding their power? Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Some said humans had made secret pacts with lost civilizations. Others claimed they were the children of ancient beings who once ruled the stars. But the truth was far more dangerous. Humans had done it all alone. No help, no alliances. Just curiosity, pressure, and a refusal to kneel. While the empires debated, Earth remained silent once again. No diplomats. No threats. Just the quiet message, echoing across star charts and political halls, "Do not return uninvited." For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Assembly realized that a new power had arrived. Not one seeking permission, but one warning the galaxy not to mistake its patience for weakness. And out there, beyond the stars, Earth watched and waited. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, carved into the core of a hollowed-out moon orbiting the star Nemeris, was rarely disturbed by fear. It had seen thousands of empires rise and fall, witnessed the collapse of entire civilizations, and stood strong through wars that lasted centuries. But now, an unusual silence filled its echoing halls as leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species reviewed the report from the failed Earth mission. For the first time in recorded history, a developing species had not only resisted but completely disabled a Dominion fleet without firing a single visible weapon. No casualties. No damage. Just total shutdown. The few surviving logs retrieved from the drifting command ship, Zarakul, revealed only confusion, lights going out, systems going rogue, sensors blinded by some kind of signal fog, and then nothing. The fleet had simply been taken apart by unknown forces. Even more troubling was the message, short, sharp, and chilling. "Do not return uninvited." The words were not threatening in tone, yet the message carried the weight of a species that had nothing to prove. The Supreme Speaker, a three-eyed being from the Cyloneth Empire, tried to calm the room, but even his soothing voice cracked. Reports began flowing in from the Outer Watchers' listening posts at the edge of Terran space had been mysteriously deactivated. Drones sent to investigate never returned. All communication probes either vanished or returned with empty data. Scientists from the Technary Union suggested that humans had access to quantum interference systems that could erase information remotely. That kind of technology had only been theorized by the oldest minds in the galaxy, and even then, they believed it was impossible to implement without collapsing entire data grids. And yet, Earth had done it. The Council demanded answers. How had humanity advanced so fast? How did a young species with less than 3 centuries of space travel already hold secrets that rivaled the greatest minds of the known universe? The answer came from an unlikely source. A quiet intelligence officer from the Corellan Syndicate stood and presented a forbidden file. It revealed that humans had already achieved faster than light travel 30 years earlier, but chose not to use it openly. Instead, they focused inward, building, learning, and preparing while feeding false signals to the galaxy that they were still climbing toward basic warp tech. Earth had been hiding in plain sight, and nobody noticed. Why? Because humans didn't seek attention. They preferred preparation. Some called it paranoia. Others now called it brilliance. Suddenly, every empire realized the same thing. If humans had been watching them all this time, what else did they know? What secrets had they gathered? Were they already among them? In the middle of this chaos, the Council's emergency alert was triggered. A figure had appeared inside the protected chamber without using the gates, without clearance, without being detected. It was a human, clad in simple, dark material, unarmed and calm. The figure didn't speak right away. They walked forward, silent eyes scanning each leader present. No guards moved. No weapons were drawn because the room's defense systems had been shut down the moment the figure arrived. When the human finally spoke, their voice was smooth, unshaken, and eerily confident. "We come in peace, but we are not unprepared. We do not seek war, but we will not accept chains." Then they placed a small sphere on the floor. It glowed softly, displaying a map of the galaxy. On it, dozens of blinking red lights appeared locations of secret council weapon facilities, hidden labs, black site prisons. All exposed. The message was clear. Humanity knew everything. Before anyone could respond, the human vanished, the sphere dimmed, and the defenses returned online too late. Panic spread like wildfire through the empires. Meetings behind closed doors became heated. Some demanded an immediate military response to destroy Earth before it could rise further. Others, more cautious, warned that any attack might provoke something none of them could survive. What if humanity wasn't just advanced, but already far ahead? What if the power they had shown so far was only a glimpse? Quietly, several empires began working on containment plans, blockades, sabotage, economic isolation. But none of them could agree on one thing. What were the humans really planning? They didn't ask for territory. They didn't demand resources. They didn't even try to negotiate. They just warned and walked away. That was the most terrifying part. Earth didn't act like an empire hungry for power. It acted like a sleeping god, disturbed too early. In the outer edges of the galaxy, young species began to hear whispers. Stories of the Terrans who stopped a Dominion fleet without firing. Of the messenger who walked into the heart of power and left untouched. Of a planet that watched the stars in silence, waiting. Among the stars, a storm was gathering, but no one could tell whether Earth would be the cause. Or the cure. And as the Galactic Council debated their next move, far above Earth, hidden behind layers of cloaking fields and artificial moons, human eyes watched back patient, prepared, and unmoved by fear. The galaxy was no longer silent about Earth. After the human envoy vanished from the heart of the Galactic Council, every empire, big or small, began to reassess everything they thought they knew. Panic did not erupt openly, but behind closed doors, fear sat like smoke in every room of power. The Karthak Dominion, the proud reptilian warlords who had never lost a battle in 1,000 years, gathered their fleet commanders and called for preemptive containment of the Terran threat. Their leaders believed in domination through strength and saw Earth's restraint as a weakness to exploit. Alongside them stood the Velari Ascendancy, a psychic race who felt a strange unease whenever they tried to probe the human mind. To them, Earth was a black mirror, something that reflected back nothing and yet somehow knew everything. Quietly, without full council permission, four major powers united under a secret pact to isolate the Sol system and pressure humanity into surrender through power, not diplomacy. It was called Operation Binding Star. A joint fleet of 70 advanced warships, equipped with the most cutting-edge cloaking systems, began to move in a loose formation toward Earth's star system. Each ship was hand-picked from veteran squadrons and captained by officers who had once conquered entire planets. They were confident, arrogant. The mission was not to invade, only to surround, restrict, and show force. The message was clear: if humanity resisted, they would see the price of defiance. The journey through deep space took less than a week through hyperspace corridors, and as the ships exited Lightfold near Pluto, they expected confusion from the humans. Instead, they found silence and a black field stretched across space, like a curtain of shadow, and steel. No one had seen it before, not in any known map or scan. It was massive, stretching across millions of kilometers like a web of floating metal and energy. It was not a wall, not exactly, but something more complex, as if thousands of satellite structures had been linked in perfect alignment. The fleet scanned the region and quickly realized this was not simply defense. It was a trap waiting to be triggered. It was then they learned its name. Across their ship consoles, a message appeared in every known language, quietly and calmly: "You have entered the reach of the Iron Veil. Do not proceed." Confusion turned to tension. The command ships attempted to contact Earth directly, but no response came. Instead, one by one, their communication systems began to glitch. Visuals failed. Audio channels were filled with static, and AI assistants started responding in human voices. Panic began to spread through the lower ranks. The Iron Veil wasn't just physical. It was digital, psychological. A complete sphere of defense designed to block, confuse, and disarm any approaching threat. As some of the outer ships attempted to turn back, they found their engines frozen by a code they couldn't decrypt. Others tried to push forward and were met not with missiles or lasers, but with silence followed by complete shutdowns of every system. Ships that crossed the invisible threshold of the Iron Veil simply drifted into darkness. No explosions, no wreckage. Just power gone, as if someone had turned off the stars around them. Back on Earth, deep within a command complex buried beneath the surface of the moon, Commander Ellis Navarro watched the fleet movements without emotion. Around her, officers monitored dozens of data streams as the Iron Veil continued its silent work. It was the result of 30 years of hidden development, powered by quantum AI and neural mesh defense protocols. The idea was simple: build a shield so advanced that it didn't just stop attacks, it prevented them from ever beginning. The Veil wasn't meant to destroy fleets. It was meant to humiliate them. In another section of the control center, engineers monitored the captured ships floating just outside Mars' orbit. Human recovery drones had already boarded them without resistance, disabling weapons, mapping alien tech, and downloading data. Every life form aboard those ships remained unharmed, though confused, locked in stasis fields while being gently towed into stable orbits. Back in the Council's distant chambers, a strange and unbelievable report arrived. The entire invading fleet had been disabled without a single human casualty or shot fired. The Empires were silent once again, but this time it was shame, not shock, that held their tongues. The Carthak Dominion, humiliated beyond words, withdrew its remaining fleets from human space and issued a carefully worded message claiming a tactical miscalculation. But the damage was done. The galaxy now saw the truth. Earth's power was not just in weapons, but in the precision of its design. They had outsmarted the smartest, outsnuck the sneakiest, outsilenced the loudest. Within days, smaller empires began sending secret communications to Earth, not in threats, but in curiosity and caution. Some offered knowledge exchanges. Others simply asked for understanding. But Earth did not respond. Not yet. They remained still, letting the silence speak. Across the stars, rumors bloomed like wildfire. Some said Earth's AI had become sentient long ago and was guiding humanity with perfect logic. Others whispered that humans had uncovered lost alien technology and used it to leap forward in secret. A few believed humans were not from Earth at all, but a forgotten species returning home. But none of those stories were as frightening as the simplest truth humans had learned. Not through gifts or shortcuts, but by studying, failing, building, and adapting without anyone noticing. While the galaxy looked outward, Earth had looked inward. And now, they were ready. The Iron Veil became a legend overnight. Entire species began redesigning their defense protocols after what they learned from its structure. Some even asked whether Earth would consider selling limited versions. But no answer came. Earth's silence was louder than any weapon. Meanwhile, inside Earth's orbital HQ, the Terran Assembly debated what to do next. There were those who urged caution, advocating for continued observation and silence. But a growing number of leaders saw an opportunity not to dominate, but to reshape galactic order through fear turned into respect. Earth did not want to become another empire, another seat at the council table. They had seen what power did to civilizations. Instead, they proposed something different, to be the hidden balance, a quiet force that ensured no empire could dominate the rest again. Peace not through treaties, but through the knowledge that if anyone pushed too far, Earth would be watching. Commander Navarro, listening to the council's vote, nodded without a word. The Iron Veil was never meant to isolate Earth. It was meant to protect an idea, one of restraint, of preparation, of power with purpose. Back in the cold silence of space, the disabled alien ships began to receive a new message. Not from Earth, but from one of the small recovery drones still floating nearby. The message was simple: your ships are intact. Your crews are safe. Let this be your answer. Earth seeks peace, but we will not kneel. You may return now. Slowly, carefully, the ships were given back their controls. Engines flickered on. Lights returned. Officers stood in disbelief as systems rebooted. No demands. No hostages. No threats. Just a warning. And a choice. When the ships returned to their home empires, they brought stories that would echo through time, of a power that did not conquer, but could not be conquered. Of a people who turned silence into a weapon and defense into a message. And across the stars, every empire asked the same question: now what did Earth truly want? Power? Respect? Revenge? But none of those seemed to match. The truth was something more unsettling. Earth did not want to rule the galaxy. They just wanted to make sure no one else could. And as the Iron Veil floated silently around the Sol system, watching and waiting, the galaxy finally understood. The age of easy power was over. A new force had risen, one that moved not with noise, but with quiet certainty. And it had made its first move not with fire, but with shadows of steel. After the collapse of Operation Binding Star and the quiet return of the disabled fleet, the galaxy entered a strange silence, not out of peace, but out of uncertainty. The once powerful alliance between the Dominion, the Ascendancy, and their silent supporters had cracked under the weight of humiliation. Each empire had tasted the cold edge of Earth's defenses and come away not wounded, but exposed. Their pride was shattered, their fleets embarrassed, and worst of all, the galaxy had watched it unfold like a slow, burning legend. Inside the Galactic Council, whispers of betrayal began to rise. Smaller empires that had secretly backed the failed containment mission now tried to distance themselves, erasing evidence, forging new records, and pretending they had no part in the operation. But Earth knew. It had always known. Days after the failed blockade, encrypted messages began arriving on the private servers of key leaders across the council: videos, audio logs, private transmissions between commanders. Each one a quiet reveal of who had signed what order, who had funded which ship, who had agreed to attack Earth without public approval. These weren't threats. They weren't accusations. They were simply facts, sent in silence, with no follow-up, as if humanity was holding up a mirror and letting each empire look at itself. Panic gripped the political halls. The pact had been broken, not by an outside force, but by fear itself. The Karthak Dominion accused the Valari of leaking intelligence. The Valari claimed the Technari Union had withdrawn support mid-mission. The Syndicate blamed the Ascendancy for moving too quickly. Allies turned into suspects. Secret friendships soured into suspicion. And in the middle of all this chaos, Earth remained completely silent. No response. No statement. Just quiet watching from behind the iron veil. What made it worse was that humanity didn't seem to care for the Council structure at all. While the galaxy tried to recover its balance, Earth made no effort to claim a seat, no attempt to speak or even respond. It was as if they had risen beyond the Council's reach, and that unknown position made them more powerful than any vote ever could. Meanwhile, deep within the Karthak throne world, a secret emergency meeting was held between the highest warlords. They were furious, humiliated, and burning for revenge. They knew Earth could not be defeated by direct force, but they began crafting something different, something older and more dangerous. A silent plan was set into motion. Awaken the Obsidian Protocol, a forgotten machine race buried beneath the ice fields of their third moon. It was a weapon of last resort, once used in ancient wars to consume enemy technology and overwhelm systems through pure mechanical numbers. The Karthak believed that if humans depended so heavily on digital infrastructure, then perhaps it was time to turn that strength into weakness. But as the machine swarms were reactivated in secret, something strange happened. They didn't obey. They paused mid-command, as if confused, then began speaking in Terran code. The warlords stared at their consoles in horror as every single drone turned toward them. A single message appeared on every Karthak screen: "We have already met." The machines shut down on their own and self-destructed in perfect synchronization, taking half the base with them. Earth hadn't just been watching. They'd already been there, already buried deep inside the old systems of their enemies. The Karthak realized, too late, that Earth had never stopped preparing, not for years, not for decades. And the Council, now fractured by distrust and shaken by Earth's quiet reach, began to dissolve from within. Meetings were postponed. Votes were delayed. Security was doubled in every chamber, yet no one could agree on who was truly in control anymore. A new fear settled in, not of Earth's weapons, but of Earth's patience. While the galaxy chased power through noise and conflict, humanity had mastered silence, control, and timing. That made them unpredictable. That made them dangerous. And as the Council tried to stitch itself back together, a quiet message finally came from Earth, not to the whole galaxy, but to one of the smallest, forgotten species in the Outer Rim. "You have been ignored for too long. We see you. We respect your survival. Would you like to learn?" It was an offer of knowledge, of alliance, not to the great powers, but to the overlooked ones. The Council watched in disbelief as the outer colonies began aligning with Earth, not because of force, but because of choice. Earth had broken the pact not with war, but by making the powerful seem weak and the forgotten feel seen. The game had changed, and Earth was no longer just a player. It had become the quiet hand behind the board, reshaping the galaxy one move at a time.